So you good to go?
I'm good to go.
Pinch hitter Jock Peterson comes up, 7th inning, game matters a little bit. What pitcher are you guys bringing in?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I don't really have a quick answer for you on that one, I think.
Well, who are the options then?
Oh man, this bullpen is really good. They've got a guy, Tyler Matzek, who used to be in independent ball, a lefty who has really just kind of come out of nowhere to be a huge part of this bullpen in high leverage situations. They have another guy, AJ Minter, another lefty for high leverage, Shane Green, a right-hander. He was an all-star last year. He's another high leverage guy. I mean, that's really one of the Braves' greatest strengths is they have a lot of different options when it comes to these late innings. And obviously you can't mix and match like you used to with a 3-batter minimum rule, but they're in pretty good shape.
15 and 13, what do those numbers mean to you? Anything?
Well, 15 is the amount of pitchers they have on their roster, and 13 is the position players. So right now we only know of 3 starters for the Braves, Max Fried, Ian Anderson, and Kyle Wright, but we'll see what happens after that. They have a few guys that they could go to. It's just really going to depend on how the series moves along.
And your relief pitching has been in the postseason the best, 0.50 ERA, right? And the Dodgers have been really good, but I feel like that's all fine and dandy. But if you're with the way these teams are put together, I think if your starters they really need to show up.
No, that's the biggest thing. Someone asked me the other day, what happened? How did the Braves win this series? And the answer is pretty easy. They have to have good starting pitching, and that seems kind of obvious. You need that for every series. But for this team, I mean, that's really the only flaw per se would be once you get past their top 2 guys. Kyle Wright looked good against the Marlins in that 3rd game in the NLDS, but, he started a little bit rocky, and it's easier to overcome starting rocky against the Marlins and getting out of it than it is the Dodgers. So you go to, game 4, what can they do there? How are they going to handle game 5 if assuming there is a game 5? And then you get, they bring Max Fried back on short rest for one of those games. If we're talking about going 6, if we're talking about going 7, I mean, there's just a lot of different options there if this series just goes on. And that's, to me, that's the biggest difference. These 2 teams are really tight in almost every area, but the biggest difference to me is the longer it goes on, you have to feel more confident about the Dodgers' pitching depth, starter depth, than the Braves'.
Yeah, and when you say longer, I think you probably mean from more games, right? Not within a game necessarily, but more games is definitely going to be. And I agree, because after our top 2, we got 2 or 3 that Dodger fans are feeling pretty confident about. That they can bring in and start. So. Mm-hmm. Freddie can hit, man. Mm-hmm. Freddie can hit. So, do the Dodgers need to pitch around him?
It's hard to pitch around anybody at the top of the Braves lineup, because they're going to throw Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman, and Marcell Ozuna at you. And
so, what you're saying is really then is just to pitch around your 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 hitters.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? Even at the bottom of the lineup, you have guys. If an Austin Riley can get hot, he can hit balls to the moon. I mean, he strikes out a lot, but he's a streaky player. Nick Markakis is a guy who, he hasn't had the best year of his career, but he's not an easy out either. And then Dansby Swanson, I mean, he's one of the best clutch hitters in baseball. So these guys are not, the highest level hitters in this lineup, but still every single one of them presents a different degree of challenge. And you just go up and down and you go, well, where's the real weakness here? And there isn't much of one. It's just like with the Dodgers. You look at these 2 lineups, and it's easy to see why, on paper, they were the 2 best offenses in baseball.
Yeah, and you're right. They match up. I mean, like up and down the lineup. Now, are we going to see Charlie Culberson at all this series?
As a pinch runner.
Okay.
Braves are not, they're not now with the DH now. They're a lot less reliant on their bench. Charlie could be a guy who is a pinch runner. Christian Pache, their top prospect, he's a rookie who's on the bench. He'll be kind of a late defensive sub. So you could see him. And, I know Dodgers fans are going to be looking forward to seeing Charlie out there, but I don't imagine you're going to see too much of him.
Let me ask you this. When you look at the Dodgers, what do you hope – what's their weakness that you think Atlanta – that's that can help Atlanta? Because Atlanta's not favored, right? The Braves aren't favored.
No, they're not. They're not favored, and I can't imagine that many people are going to pick them. Although it's definitely. I don't think anyone would be that surprised if you wound up saying, "Well, the Braves pulled this off in 7." I don't think that would blow anybody away.
No, that's baseball.
It's hard to. I look at you look at the Dodgers. There's not a lot of weaknesses here. I mean, do you want to call the 9th inning a weakness? Depending on, are they going to run Kenley out there because he's going to be a guy who gives you opportunities, and can you take advantage of that? But you also don't want to be in a position where you're down 1 run in the 9th, down 2 runs, and down 3. You don't want to be down at all. But the one thing I would say is that the Dodgers relied on the homer more than the Braves did this season. They scored more of their runs via homer than the Braves did. They hit 118. The Braves hit 103. They both hit a ton of homers, but the Dodgers scored more of their runs that way. Here in Arlington, this ballpark doesn't really play well for the homer. So if it just suppresses homers, if you're looking at that scenario, maybe that helped. Maybe that gives the Braves a slight edge because they've proven that they can score better without the homer than perhaps the Dodgers can. But at the same time, the Dodgers were a good team with runners in scoring position, and with 2 outs, they were a better team than the Braves in that department. So really, how much of an edge is that? I don't think it's much one, because I think that the Dodgers have proven that they can beat you without homers as well. So it's
they have, but I do believe that in the playoffs with strong pitching, homers are great and they're going to matter and they're going to count and they're going to be there. But I totally agree with you. I've just watching so much postseason over my life that, sometimes it's a scratch hit, sometimes it's a bloop, sometimes it's the ability to move a guy over. Sometimes it's not striking out when it's absolutely not okay to strike out, right? So I do think that's actually a very good point, because I do think that if the Dodgers do have a weakness, and I don't think they really have much of one, can they manufacture the runs the way the Braves can? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they can. I think both teams can. Again, there's a reason that both of these 2 teams are here, right? I know that neither the Dodgers or the Braves were in the NLCS last year, but I think when you look at the sample size of these last 2 seasons, these have been the 2 best teams in the National League. And that's because they figure out different ways to win. The Dodgers, not everything has always gone smooth for them. And the Braves, they keep losing guys from their rotation, yet they keep winning anyway. And they're doing it, and then they're getting career years from guys left and right. Both of these teams just really, look, these games aren't won on paper, or else, we'd be looking at a Dodgers-Yankees World Series like Vegas had and everybody had since, January, or since, Garrett Cole signed there. So these are 2 just they're well run, they're well coached, strong clubhouses. Both are experienced teams. And they both have that nice mix of youth and veterans. Both are athletic. They have guys like Acuna and Betts who impact the game in a number of ways. Both guys could go 0 for 4 with a walk, but they score on that walk. That's modern baseball, right? That these 2 teams are really what you want when it comes to modern baseball. They hit the daylights out of the ball. They can pitch. The back end of the Braves rotation notwithstanding, and they're uber athletic, and they can impact the game in a lot of different ways. They do the small things right. They're sound defensively. This is really all you can ask for in a World Series. I'm not going to go so far as to say the winner of this, will be the winner of the World Series, because I think Tampa's really, really good. But certainly, whoever comes out of this is going to be feeling really good in that matchup. The Braves can't go down 0-2 in this series. They need to find a way to get a win off Buehler or Kershaw. They've seen both of these guys before, so it's not someone that they've never seen, even though it has been a while. But they need to find a way to go ahead and get one of these first 2 games. If it's 1-1, I think the Braves would be feeling okay with where they're at. Without context, I say that, but
sure.
If the Dodgers, if you can go up 0-2. And the Braves are in a position where they're throwing out Kyle Wright for his second postseason, if they go up 2-0, and the Braves are throwing out Kyle Wright for his second postseason start, and then there's a bunch of unknown factors for Game 4, potentially Game 5, then the Dodgers will have a huge advantage here, and it's really hard to see how the Braves could overcome that given their rotation situation. So I mean, every game in a 7-game series is pivotal, but when you look at these first 2 games, it's going to tell us a lot about really the shape that this series is going to take.
One of the things that I really enjoy about baseball is talking baseball. And I like stats as much as anybody, but I'll have you notice that Gabe and I didn't sit here and spew out a bunch of stats, because you can love the game that way, but you don't have to love the game that way. We just had a full conversation without really throwing out stats, just because baseball is so much more than numbers. And if you're just a fan out there just watching the game and you're intimidated by the stats, don't be. Just watch the game and enjoy it. And Gabe, you really do, I think, speak of the game in a way that really, helps people out that just, want to be fans that way. So
baseball is an interesting sport. A lot of people are on one end of the other when it comes to numbers, and like anything else in life, there's a happy medium to it. And I think whenever you're just trying to break down, I mean, there's so much context in all of sports, but especially in baseball, that stats aren't going to tell the whole story, and analytics can't tell the whole story. But there's a happy medium for all that. So I'm always glad to try to cover both ends of that. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, you do it well. I'm Tom Wilson for Dodger Fan Weekly. Thanks for joining us. See you later. Go Dodgers.